Every generation has its guitar legends, but sometimes one of the greats gets absolutely dunked on by someone who grew up idolizing them. Today, we're going to look at 3 moments where Nancy Wilson of Heart, yes, a lifelong Jimmy Page devotee, accidentally, respectfully, and musically posterized the Led Zeppelin mastermind. But this is all done with love, since we all know that Nancy adores Jimmy Page, and I also adore Jimmy Page. You adore Jimmy Page, but the facts are the facts. Riffs are riffs, and sometimes the student turns around and goes, "Hey teacher, watch this." So let's start with the most obvious one, the first dunk. The one-on-one full court drive that everyone in the arena saw coming. Barracuda. Barracuda is what happens when you take Jimmy Page style gallop picking and then you give it actual horsepower. So Page could do a lot of things better than almost anyone. His blues phrasing, epic arrangements, layered textures, and of course his supernatural swagger. But what he didn't do, what he never really mastered, is that super tight, machine-like, hard chug rock groove the way that Nancy did on Barracuda. Page's rhythm playing is loose and elastic. Nancy's is a freight train with perfect timing and perfect iron steel to it. The twist is that Nancy has said for decades that she was trying to sound like Page when she picked up the guitar. So this means that Barracuda is kind of the evolution of the original Led Zeppelin DNA with just a slightly higher revved engine. So coming in at number 2 is Love Alive, the acoustic pop song that I don't think Jimmy Page could have ever created. This is where Nancy beats Jimmy Page at a game that Jimmy Page probably didn't even know he was playing, which is using the acoustic guitar to create a pop song with emotional uplift. So let's think about what Page did with the acoustic guitar, which is an awful lot. He created beautiful folk paintings, mysterious tunings, medieval moods, and of course blues swagger and blues rags and incredible epics like Stairway to Heaven, The Rain Song, and Going to California. What he didn't do, ever, was write an actual acoustic pop song, a melodic, radio-friendly, cleanly structured acoustic tune that hits with this kind of wave of positivity. Meanwhile, Nancy Wilson created Love Alive, and it was like she took the Led Zeppelin acoustic palette and said, what if we substituted excitement for the kind of brooding mystery that goes along with a lot of Jimmy Page's acoustic work? And for Nancy Wilson, this is a moment of absolute triumph. And I don't think Jimmy Page ever wrote a true acoustic commercial song in the same way that Nancy Wilson did with this one. But I would say maybe the closest that he ever came was Hey Hey What Can I Do? But even that was just a B-side originally, and it also doesn't have the same commercial polish as Love Alive. And finally, we have the last dunk, the technical dunk, the finesse dunk, the fingertip dunk. Literally, the song is Dreamboat Annie. Now, let me say the quiet part out loud. Nancy Wilson was, and potentially still is, simply a better finger picker than Jimmy Page. I know, Page has many moments of finger picking brilliance, and he has his own hybrid form of picking and finger picking at the same time on songs like Bron Yar, Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, Black Mountainside. All of these are incredible, but they are a lot less confident, a lot less precise, a lot less lyrical, and a lot less clean than what you can get from Nancy's finger picking. This is because Nancy has a classically influenced right hand. She has really long fingernails that are strong enough to take down a medieval fortress, and she has a pop songwriter's instinct for melody, whereas Jimmy Page has a more earthy tone. Her tone is crisp, and tone is also a bit rounded. Page tends to have a jagged rhythm to what he does. She's very emotionally clear, whereas it seems like Page is more of an impressionist going through many moods and shades in one sitting. I remember this is coming from someone who really loves Jimmy Page myself, and it's also comparing him to someone who definitely plays guitar in his image, who's Nancy Wilson. So basically for this entire conversation, Jimmy Page is what you might think of as the North Star, which makes this even better, because I'm not saying here that Nancy outplayed Jimmy Page. I'm saying that she created her own identity partially because of Jimmy Page, taking his ideas, refining them, sharpening them, and bringing them into her own artistic language. In these three cases I've talked about, that particular artistic language happened to reach places that Page didn't go to or couldn't go to. And this is areas where I think that Nancy, using Page's influence, was able to achieve things that he himself didn't do. So my question to you here is, who do you think has a better acoustic style overall? Do you think it's Jimmy Page or Nancy Wilson? And do you agree with me on my choices? And if not, do you have other insight? The three moments that I mentioned above were kind of put out there all in good fun, where Nancy Wilson respectfully dunked on the master who inspired her. And this isn't about tearing Page down. He's one of the greatest architects of rock guitar. But sometimes a student can take the building materials and build a completely different kind of skyscraper. And Nancy Wilson didn't just build a skyscraper. She built one that occasionally had better acoustics, cleaner finger picking, and a riff that could knock over a small city. And I think that that deserves recognition in a world where sometimes, as I've been saying in many of my videos on Nancy, her contributions to rock get overshadowed by the fact that, people think she gets by on her looks and the fact that she was in a really popular band, rather than the fact that she herself contributed a lot to rock guitar in the 1970s. She had a lot to say through, particularly the acoustic guitar, and I am one of those people who is very responsive to the acoustic guitar, and I think that Jimmy Page and Nancy Wilson are both masters of rock acoustic playing.
MusicGuru here, asking you to help us on our march to 10,000 subscribers.